Welcome back to my Pokémon Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke with no duplicate types allowed. In the last episode, Candace was dealt with handily thanks to our doggo from hell. We then tore down the Team Galactic movement on several different occasions, beating up their admins at each lakefront, raiding their HQ building, and foiling their attempts to halt our progress atop of Spear Pillar. And now, we look to finish this evil team off once and for all. Cyrus, here we come. Let's do this. Before we can take on Cyrus, we have to take the unfortunate walk of shame back through Mount Coronet to the nearest Pokemon Center. What the hell are you still doing here? Don't you have somewhere better to be? Anyway, with the death of our Rampardos Hermes, we're going to need to bring someone else along for the Cyrus fight. And I have decided that that someone will be Hades. Really sucks that we won't have Fly still for when we finally get out of the Distortion World, but I feel like this was the right pick. The reason I didn't want to bring Hades along the first time around was because it can really only be used against Cyrus's Weavile, and even then it has to A, avoid a crit from X-Scissor, and B, hit the range on Flamethrower. Yes, you heard that correctly. Flamethrower isn't even a guaranteed kill, at least with what we're working with right now. I just feel like Hera could be a better option, but we'll figure it out when we get back up there. At least I'm familiar with the layout at this point in our overall run of the Gen 4 games, and so it's not long before we reach Spear Pillar once again. And now we dive into the depths of the Distortion World. Nothing to see here, just the usual run through Platinum's signature dungeon. On a less serious note, did you know that you can do this with the party app on the Pokédex? Because I sure as hell didn't. It's so weird to realize how much more enjoyable the smaller things like this are for me in the older Pokemon games as I age myself. Also makes me realize how impatient and oblivious I was as an early fan of the series. What are some smaller aspects of Pokemon that you guys haven't noticed until you got older? Anything you've completely missed until like 10 or 20 years later like I have on several occasions now? Just a couple more blocks to push, and we finally made our way over to Cyrus. Strap in, this one should be fun. Let's do this. We lead with Demeter, who was an easy choice to make to deal with Cyrus's own fire puppy. Houndoom goes for the Will-O-Wisp and misses. Even if we did get hit with the burn there, it's probably the best case scenario when compared to something like Dark Pulse. We could have easily used Rest at some other point during the fight to remove the burn and give ourselves some fresh legs? Slime? I don't know. With Houndoom down and out, we now have a very scary Gyarados to deal with. And while Zeus is normally foaming at the mouth when presented with a 30-foot long piece of sushi, even she is a little concerned about this one. Upon switching in, we get hit with the Waterfall, which is not ideal. But no crit at least. Our speed stats are very close, so let's see who goes first. We are in fact slower and the Earthquake comes out, but we do have a Shuka Berry equipped to handle this scenario. We avoided another critical strike, and now Zeus can enjoy her evening meal in peace. The dreaded Weavile is out next, and this attack could theoretically be anything. In any case, I'd like to use Hera to bring this one home, as she seems to have the best chance to survive depending on what we get. And of course, it's basically the worst case scenario with Ice Punch. We can definitely survive another one, and it actually looks like we could potentially survive a crit as well if one were to occur. Okay, I'm kind of thinking we could have lost Hera there, but our streak of good luck continues at least, and she retaliates with a Brick Break. And with that, the worst of the fight is now over, but we do still have 2 Pokemon left to deal with, so let's finish this. Crobat joins the fight, and we switch into the most obvious counter in Hephaestus. With a Person Berry equipped, there's literally nothing this Crobat can do other than pray for air/flinches. He does manage to get one of them successfully, but after clearing off the Confuse Ray with our previously mentioned Personberry, another Psychic brings it down. Honchkrow has arrived, and it's a bit trickier to navigate than you may think. It'll go down quite easily if we can get an attack off, but in the meantime, it hits really freaking hard. I opted to keep Demeter in for a turn, as it seems like we could comfortably take another Night Slash, and we go for the Ice Beam. We get the Drill Peck instead, though. But Demeter holds on. Our Ice Beam was just barely not enough to take it down, and now we need to make a switch. Aphrodite can one-shot this Honchkrow regardless of what its HP is at, and we could get another full restore from Cyrus this turn, so this is the play I decided to go with. Honchkrow stays in the fight though, and we get another Drill Peck incoming. We need to get lucky one more time. Aphrodite lives, and another Ice Beam brings the big boss chicken down. Cyrus and Team Galactic are finished, and even though we had to endure several close calls, that's another huge milestone for the team. After jumping through the portal and back into Sendoff Spring, we make the run back through Spring Path and Route 214. Definitely grabbing Dionysus from the box. Not a fan of having to run around everywhere late into the game. Heading over to Sandgem Town to update Dawn and Rowan on the situation. Now, if I were Rowan and a 10-year-old kid came into my lab and told me about an encounter with Pokemon's version of Hell and the Devil, well, I'm not sure what I would do, to be honest. I decided to take a step back and enjoy a bit of casual immersion before we continue to push the rest of our story forward. For the first time, I think maybe in a Pokemon game ever, outside of Gen 2 that is, I actually went back and visited Mom for a bit, like a lot of these games have often told me to do. Dinner is nice, but I never really realized that your dad is actually mentioned in these games. A neat little piece of dialogue, but a bit disappointing that it might be the only thing your mom really does in this game. I stopped by one of my favorite towns in Pastoria for a nice little stroll. Going for another anti-super effective berry, and it's another Shuka berry. Oh well. I suppose I shouldn't complain about free stuff, I guess, especially when it's incredibly difficult to obtain otherwise. We're heading over to Veilstone next, so we can start heading over to Route 222. It's moments like this that make me wish Game Freak had added the follow mechanic for Pokemon just one set of games earlier. Having it available everywhere, not just within Amity Square, would have made Platinum even more incredible than it already is. Not a very long casual segment here, but it's enough to recharge the batteries a little bit, and now let's cover Route 222 on our way to Sunyshore City. Apologies for the constant back and forth between day and night. I've had a lot going on recently, and my playtime is kind of all over the place. Rich Boy Trey has a sick seal for his Luxray. That's kind of making me a little jealous, thinking about giving Zeus the same treatment. For encounters, we've got the unbelievably powerful and consistent Chatot once again. And we have a new addition in Electabuzz. Very solid Pokemon, even without its evolution. It's just a shame that you can't obtain one until this point. It's still pretty solid for the league though, if you haven't found your electric type yet. We've got a pair of PP-ups to grab, one hidden over to the west, technically this is on Route 214 I guess, and we've got one on the beach in plain sight. After a nice little stroll on the coast, a quick snack for Zeus, and now we move on to Sunyshore City. A quick heal at the Pokemon Center, and now I'd like to find out where I can buy some seals to try some out. I have no idea where to look, so I'm gonna just start randomly entering houses until I find something. Whoa. What the hell is going on here? It would appear that I've accidentally stumbled upon an underground fan club of sorts. It's kind of cool, but after talking to everyone in it, it looks like there's nothing to actually do here, unfortunately. Ah, there we go. This place looks important. Not gonna lie, I don't think I've ever been in here before. Excuse me? What do you mean Zeus hasn't worked hard enough? You little. I guess I'll just buy a bunch of all of this stuff. It's so cheap, I might as well. These should be a little fun, I guess. I don't know if I've ever experienced this content before. Let me know if any of you have come up with any interesting seals before. After playing around with these for a bit, I headed over to the lighthouse to retrieve our next opponent. And now, it's gym time. Other than the sound of constantly twisting and turning gears, you may have noticed that someone is poisoned, and that would be our girl, Hera. Yep, I've activated Guts for this fight, and the results should be very dramatic. But that's not all I've got up my sleeve. I've got a little bit of a setup in mind to make sure she succeeds. Volkner is finally upon us. Let's get that last badge. We lead with Demeter to take on Jolteon. The electric version of Eevee doesn't have a single attack that can deal normal damage against our Mudslug, so I'm thinking a couple of Surfs should do the job while keeping ourselves relatively healthy. Jolteon goes down and Raichu joins the fight, which means it's setup time. Hephaestus enters the battle and takes the incoming Focus Blast. Our Superstar tank takes the damage well, and now we press the button. I've been thinking about Trick Room for a while now, and I am so happy to finally get the chance to unironically use it in a playthrough. Also helps a lot that Raichu missed the second Focus Blast. And this, my friends, is where I back off and let Hera do the talking. Simple, fun, and absolutely flawless. Hand over that badge, Volkner. We're going to the Pokemon League. After a well-deserved heal, I stopped by the local mart to pick up some full restores. And by some, I mean like 40. Why not? It's not like this massive bag of money is going towards anything else right now. Heading north, we have a little exchange with Barry and Jasmine, followed by the acquisition of a new HM, Waterfall. Since we're not playing with an HM slave for the run, this will have to go to Demeter until we can get through Victory Road. No other option here, unfortunately. And speaking of Victory Road, let's head out of town to the north. Not much to review as far as Route 223 goes. Trainers are fairly easy at this point. You've got Pelipper and Tentacruel making up your most common of encounters, but Mantike and Octillery are here as well if you've been saving your water and or flying type until now. Octillery is probably not worth it due to the wonky stat spread, but Mantine is pretty fun, I guess, with its massive special bulk. Oh, and just watch out for the higher level Tentacruels out in the wild, as depending on what level they are when you encounter them, they will have Hydro Pump, not to mention that they'll most likely be faster than your Pokemon as well, so swim carefully. Great spot for training special defense though. It's just a shame that you have to wait this long to take advantage of it. Aphrodite and Zeus smoke the rest of the route, we grab our free rare candy, and up our first waterfall we go. We made it. The squad will remain the same for Victory Road, which means Dionysus will continue to remain in the box for safekeeping. These guys have all come so far. We've grown a lot as a team, and now we step into our final challenge before the league. Let's do this. As we move through the initial corridors of the cave, our first opponent appears right around the corner, Psychic Bryce. With the spell tag wrapped around her neck, Aphrodite won't have any issue shadowballing her way through these ghosts and psychics. Back up the rock wall we go, and down the next set of stairs. Ace Trainer Hana has flying types, which means Zeus is having chicken for dinner. Despite leaning into special defense, Noctowl doesn't stand a chance. And it looks like Zeus will get a side of scrambled eggs with that as well. Hera safely guides us down some more rocks, and she's left outside of her Pokeball for our next opponent as well. Ace Trader Mariah is not gonna like this. Our token Gen 4 moment of the run. 1 down, 2 to go. Magnezone will succumb to our brutal earthquake, and Glalie gets split in half. Heading up the stairs, we've got our first bike section, along with some rocks to smash and boulders to push. The max elixir is appreciated, and as we head down the corridor and to the left, Ace Trainer Omar is waiting for us. Mamoswine is normally quite terrifying, but after asking Hades for his thoughts on the matter, it's pretty clear that he doesn't seem to care all that much. With Rampardos out, I switch into Demeter to take the incoming Ancient Power. And I mean, come on. Ancient Power on Rampardos? Omar's final Pokemon is a fairly pathetic Mothim, for which Hades will return to finish what he started. No time for rest though, as we've got Sydney lurking right around the corner. It's Hera versus Clefable, and I think we all get where this is going. Torterra is a bit trickier though, I must say. In anticipation of Earthquake, I sent in Hephaestus. Sydney opts for Leech Seed here instead, which can admittedly cause some problems if left alone for too long. We go for Hypnosis on the following turn, and we get the sleep. Hopefully the massive land turtle can remain as such for our next switch into Aphrodite. And luckily, all goes well, and now we shove an Ice Beam down its throat. Just a little ways down the hall and through the boulders, we've got veteran Clayton. Zeus leads the way against Staraptor, and we naturally go for a Thunderbolt. The Edgy Bird falls, and Licky Licky comes into play. Another perfect target for our fighting machine. And despite how crazy this thing's defensive stats are, nothing will save Licky Licky from Hera's fists. After the fight, I headed back south to explore one of the optional areas of Victory Road. Some more strength and rock smash puzzles await, as well as some more ramps to jump. But not before facing off against Ace Trainers Al and Kay in our first double battle of the dungeon. I led with Zeus and Hera to take these two on as we exchanged a few intimidates with each other. Ambipom goes for the weaker Water Pulse, but it does cause confusion, which is concerning. But not as concerning as this! Oh my god, please break through the confusion. Jesus Christ, I almost killed her. I am so sorry, Hera. Well, that certainly got the blood pumping. Let's move on. Our reward for this little side mission is the TM for Stone Edge. We've still got Rock Slide available to us, so I'm not entirely sure if we'll see this or not, only if there ends up being a situation where we need the extra 25 to 30 base power for a specific league matchup. Black Belt Miles and his Machamp are up next. Hephaestus is probably the safest play here, so let's see what we get hit with first. But as it turns out, we're actually faster. So let's see what this Psychic deals. And I grossly underestimated the power that this floating bell possesses. Damn. And Machamps are pretty freaking bulky too, even on the special side. Entering the next room, we've got our water sections, starting with Psychic Valencia. Should be another fun start for Aphrodite, as Chingling is nothing more than a weaker Gardevoir. Our first Absol sighting of the run is here, and naturally we switch into Hera to deal with the disaster Pokemon. The double team is set up, but Hera is not phased, and a swift Brick Break should put an end to Valencia's second Pokemon. Dusknoir isn't really all that scary due to the very random learn set it has around this level. Shadow Punch may actually be its only attacking move, so... After the first surf, Dusknoir comes to terms with its fate and decides to bring itself down with Curse. Across the water and up the waterfall, we don't need the TM for Dragon Pulse, as I don't believe anyone can actually learn it, so we move on to Dragon Tamer on I don't know, which I forgot to record gameplay for, but that's okay. Aphrodite is featured once again here, to no one's surprise, and a couple of Ice Beams did the job. And now we've got what I would consider to be the real final boss of Victory Road, and that is veteran Edgar and his unique team. I started out with Hera versus Porygon Z because because I was under the assumption that the worst thing it could possibly have would be Psybeam. Well, apparently Game Freak decided to allow Edgar here to utilize the TM pool. Hera does hold on at least, and we respond with a Brick Break. Empoleon is in now, and I'm expecting some sort of flying type attack, so I switch into Zeus to handle it from here. Drill Peck deals nothing after the attack drop from Intimidate, and we respond with a Thunderbolt on the next turn. Empoleon goes down, and Edgar's final Pokemon joins the fight. I kept Zeus in for a turn, confident that she could survive at least one attack. Crunch deals a moderate amount of damage while we are poisoned. Time to make a switch, but I can't simply use Aphrodite or Hades here, as this Tangrowth could very well have a rock type attack like Rock Slide or Ancient Power, so I opted to use Hephaestus instead to put it to sleep first. I go for a Psychic on the following turn, and it's actually enough to kill. Alright, Hephaestus, I see you. We've got one more little side area before we reach the end. In the following side room, we can finally pick up another upgrade for Hades in Dark Pulse. A fantastic addition to his arsenal. One more set of rocks to climb, and we've arrived at our final trainer. Although Dragon Tamer Clinton isn't much of a challenge with his unevolved dragons, I'll never understand why he exists, but in any case, we have weathered the storm that is Victory Road. Welcome to the Pokemon League. One last fight before our final push. It's nice to see you again, Barry. Let's do this. Zeus leads the way as she and Staraptor trade Intimidates with each other. Unexpectedly, Barry goes for the U-turn here, which was an interesting choice, and he sends in Snorlax on the switch. Makes sense, as this one is packing Earthquake, which means it's time to make a switch of our own, into Hephaestus. Snorlax decides to take a nap instead, the thinking here probably being that we wouldn't have been able to take it out with another Thunderbolt from Zeus, but instead, we switch over to Hera to take advantage of the status effect that Snorlax has inflicted upon himself. Let's see what Brick Break can do. So close, but luckily Snorlax remains asleep, and Barry does not decide to go for any healing on the following turn. Staraptor is back in the fight, and so we naturally make the switch back into Zeus. The aerial ace deals absolutely nothing, and if you weren't able to guess it already, Staraptor hits us with another U-turn, this time switching into Heracross. The Thunderbolt deals over half, but I'm not sure if we're going to be faster here or not. I don't want to risk losing Zeus, so I send in Hera to hopefully clean this up. The incoming close combat hits us for an insane amount of damage despite our bulkiness. I'm still glad I went with Hera there though, as I don't think anyone else on the team would have been able to take that quite as well, other than maybe Hephaestus, I suppose. In anticipation of another close combat, or perhaps an aerial ace, Aphrodite now makes her first appearance. We do in fact get hit with the flying type attack, and now we respond with Shadow Ball. Heracross goes down, and Floatzel is up next. Fully expecting Crunch here, so I sent in Zeus to deliver an attack drop and then take the hit. And since Floatzel will most certainly be faster, I sent in Hephaestus to take the incoming Crunch. Our sentient Bell took the hit very well. So well, in fact, I decided to go for another Trick Room setup to win the Speed War for the rest of the fight. And after a couple of more Psychics, Floatzel finally falls and Infernape joins the fight. Unfortunately, Bronzong is not strong enough to take it down with a single strike, and I have a feeling that a Flamethrower would be a bit too problematic. Demeter, you're up. Perfect switch to deal with that nasty attack. And now we surf. Barry's ace goes down and Demeter picks up Recover as a result. Should be a fantastic tool for the upcoming challenges. Roserade is chosen of course as our next opponent, and we all know who's coming out to deal with that. Hades reduces Roserade to Ash, and once again we've come full circle on this Staraptor. Zeus is far too low at this point to deal with it, but in anticipation of close combat, I sent out Aphrodite to finish this fight once and for all. And with that, this episode is now over. A couple of close calls, but nothing to bring our spirits down. I couldn't be prouder of the team we've assembled. They're ready. In the next one, we gather up all of the strength we have left to make our final push. We're coming for you, Cynthia. In the meantime, as usual, please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more content like this. That's it from me. I'll see you next time.